Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to week 9. Amazing, eh? How we've got to week 9, end of term 3, one more term to go, and we're all very positive that we're going to be back at school. So I really enjoyed doing that experiment. I was so nervous doing that experiment. It's funny doing it live because you're never quite sure what's going to happen. So we got up to our story with the BFG where Sophie was trying to get the BFG to tell her what he was doing with his trumpet. So let's see what he was doing with his trumpet. All right. Oh, please tell me what you were doing in our village. Sophie said, I promise, you can trust me. Well, would you teach me how to make an elephant? The BFG asked. What do you mean, an elephant? Sophie said. I would dearly love to have an elephant to ride on, the BFG said. I would so much love to have a jumbly big elephant to go riding through green forests, picking peachy fruits off the trees all day long. This is a sizzling, hot, muck-frumping country we is living in. Nothing grows in it except snoz cucumbers. I would love to go somewhere else and pick peachy fruits in the early morning from the back of an elephant. Sophie was quite moved by this curious statement. Well, perhaps one day we'll get you an elephant. It's an elephant, she said, and peachy fruits as well. Now, tell me what you were doing in our village. Come on, let's get back to what I asked. If you is really wanting to know what I am doing in your village, I is blowing a dream in the bedroom of those children. Blowing a dream? What on earth do you mean? I is a dream-blowing giant. When all the other giants is galloping off every what way and which way to swoop human beings, I is scuttling away to other places to blow dreams into the bedrooms of sleeping children. Nice dreams, lovely golden dreams, dreams that is giving the dreamers a happy time. Now, hang on a minute, said Sophie. Where on earth do you get those dreams from? I collect them. And the BFG waved his arms to all the rows of bottles on the shelf. I has billions of them. Don't be silly, giant. You can't collect dreams. A dream isn't something you can catch hold of. You is never going to understand about it. That is why I am not wishing to tell you. Oh, sorry, please tell me. I will understand. Now go on, tell me how you collect dreams. Tell me everything. The BFG settled himself comfortably in his chair and crossed his legs. Dreams is very mysterious things. They is floating around in the air like little wispy, mispy bubbles, and all the time they is searching for sleeping people. Can you actually see them? Sophie asked. Not at first. Then how do you catch them if you can't see them? Ha! Now we is getting onto the dark and dusky secrets. Well, I promise you I won't tell a soul. I is trusting you, the BFG said. He closed his eyes and he sat quite still for a moment while Sophie waited. A dream, as it goes whiffling through the night air, is making a tiny little buzzing humming noise, but this little buzzy hum is so silvery soft, it is impossible for a human being to be hearing it. But you can hear it, Sophie asked. The BFG pointed up at his enormous truck wheel ears, which he now began to move in and out, just like an elephant flapping his ears. He performed this exercise quite proudly, with a little proud smile on his face. Is you seeing these? How on earth could I miss them? Said Sophie. They maybe is looking a bit prosperous to you, but you must believe me when I say it is very extra usual is indeed. They is not to be coughed at. I'm quite sure they're not, Sophie said. They is allowing me to hear absolutely every single twiddly little thing. You mean you can hear things that I can't hear, Sophie said. You is deaf as a dumpling compared with me, cried the BFG. You is hearing only thumping loud noises with those little earwigs of yours, but I am hearing all the secret whisperings of the world. Like what? Sophie asked. In your country, tree, I is hearing the footsteps of a ladybird as she goes walking across a leaf. Really? Sophie said, beginning to sound rather impressed. What's more, I is hearing those footsteps very loud. When a ladybird is walking across a leaf, I is hearing her feet going clumpity, 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 clump, like a giant's footsteps. Goodness gracious me, Sophie said. What else can you hear? I is hearing the little ants chittering to each other as they scuttle around in the soil. You mean you can hear ants talking? Sophie said. Every single word, although I is not exactly understanding their language. Oh, please tell me a bit more. This is so cool. Sometimes on a very clear night, and if I is swiggling my ears in the right direction, and here he swiveled his right direction, and here he swiveled his great ears upwards so they were facing the ceiling. If I is swiggling like this, and the night is very clear, I is sometimes hearing faraway music coming from the stars in the sky. A queer little shiver passed through Sophie's body, and she sat very quiet, waiting for more. My ears is what told me you were watching me out of your window last night, the BFG said. But I didn't make a sound, Sophie said. But I was hearing your heart beating across the road, loud as a drum. Oh, this is amazing. Please tell me more. I can hear plants and trees. Do they talk? Sophie asked. They is not exactly talking, but they is making noises. For instance, if I come along and I is picking a lovely flower, if I is twisting the stem of the flower till it breaks, then the plant is screaming. I can hear it screaming, and screaming very clear. Oh, you don't mean it. That's awful. I do mean it. It's screaming just like you would be screaming if someone was twisting your arm right off. I don't believe you. Is that really true? Sophie asked. If you think it's a swizz fiddling, well, it's just a little bit hard to believe. Then I am stopping right here then. I am not wishing to be called a fibster. Oh, no, I'm not calling you anything, Sophie cried. I believe you, I do really. I really, really do. Please go on. The BFG gave her a long, hard stare. Sophie looked right back at him, her face open to his. I promise you, BFG, I believe you. She had offended him and she could see that. I wouldn't ever be fibbling to you, he said. Oh, I'm sorry, Giant. I know you wouldn't, but you must understand that it isn't easy to believe such amazing things straight away. I understand, the BFG said. So, will you please forgive me and go on, she said. He waited a while longer and then he said, It is the same with trees as it is with flowers. If I is chopping an axe into the trunk of a big tree, I is hearing terrible sound coming from inside the heart of the tree. Oh, what sort of sound is that? Sophie asked. A soft moaning sound. It is like the sound an old man is making when he is very, very sick. He paused, and the cave was very silent. Trees is living and growing just like you and me. They is alive, and so is plants. He was sitting very straight in his chair now, and his hands clasped together tightly in front of him. His face was bright, his eyes round and bright as two stars. Such wonderful and terrible sounds I is hearing, he said. Some of them you would never wish to be hearing yourself, but some is like glorious music. He seemed almost to be transfigured by the excitement of his thoughts. His face was beautiful in its blaze of emotions. Oh, can you tell me more about them? Sophie asked quietly. You ought to be hearing the little miceys talking. Little miceys is always talking to each other, and I is hearing them as loud as my own voice. Oh, what do little mice say? Sophie asked. Only the miceys know that.
Spiders is also talking a great deal. Might not be thinking it, but spiders is the most tremendous natterboxers, and when they is spinning their webs, they is singing all the time. They is singing sweeter than a nightingale. What else do you hear? Sophie asked. One of the biggest chatbags is the cattle piddlers, the BFG said. What do they say? And what on earth is a cattle piddler? They are arguing all the time about who is going to be the prettiest butterfly. That is all they is ever talking about. Giant, is there a dream floating around in here now? Sophie asked. The BFG moved his great ears this way and that, listening intently. He shook his head. There is no dream in here, except in the bottles. I has a special place to go for catching dreams. They is not often coming to giant country. So how do you catch them? Sophie asked. The same way you is catching butterflies, the BFG answered, with a net. He stood up and crossed over to the corner of the cave where a pole was leaning against the wall. The pole was about 30 feet long, and there was a net on the end of it. Here is the dream catcher, he said, grasping the pole in one hand. Every morning I is going out and snitching new dreams to put in my bottles. Suddenly, he actually seemed to lose interest in the conversation. Actually, I is getting hungry. It is time for eats. Oh, I do love the giant. He's so lovely, and I love how Sophie is so relaxed and wants to know more. Reminds me of 72 children in year 3 who always want to know more. All right, my lovely people, have a good night's sleep, and I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. And all of you who are practicing so hard for your speech and drama exams, I'm thinking of you too. So always give your best, and you know that we love you to bits. So sleep tight, everybody, and I'll see you tomorrow.